Okay.
So, hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's May 1st, and today we're going to talk about fundamental analysis and technical analysis. So we're going to talk a lot about the basics. Before we get started, Cherie, were you able to open a brokerage account?
I was
Okay,
with
good.
Chase.
And what was the other thing we were working on for today? Because my notebook's at school.
Uh, Give me one moment and I will pull it up. We were doing the brokerage account and you just wanted me to go back and you wanted me to view the last Wednesday. Well, when we met last week, you wanted me
Okay,
to go into that and understand and go through and look up the trading far as in like the brokerage account you were saying and what's that other one? I don't have that book right here in front of me.
all right, I'm gonna see it tomorrow when I get
And
back.
invest. Yeah.
Go ahead. Was there anything else? Just
Mm,
kind of really just review what we went over in that video and then open a brokerage account. Where did you
yeah.
open the account at?
I opened it with Chase, the same bank that I bank with.
Okay, very good. All right. So, and with Chase, do they have a paper trading option?
Well, when I opened the account, let me tell you right here. They said something about paper trading, but the guy wasn't really available to really go in depth and speak with me a lot about the brokerage account
Okay.
because you're supposed to have an appointment. And I
Okay.
kind of was like, well, I need to get this open because I need this for trading. And he wasn't able to really go in depth because you have to have an appointment in order
Gotcha. Gotcha.
for them to sit down and go really in depth with you.
No worries. Okay. We'll possibly we'll take a look at it offline, off of the recording session. And if it's just the two of us, we'll take a peek at it and see what we can see. If not,
Okay.
you'll get a chance to look at it hopefully this week. So fundamental analysis and technical analysis is what we're going to talk about. We'll stick to the basics, and then as we move along, we'll begin to take a deeper dive into it. So fundamental analysis, I may have touched on in the last video, that is really your numbers, your earnings per share, your, year over year growth, quarter over quarter, how much cash do you have? How much debt do you have? How much return on equity is there? It's all of your numbers. What's your share structure like? What's the volume like? What industry are you in? What's the news? The fundamentals, the basics, what's going on with the company. Um, Technical analysis is your candlestick charts or your bar charts. So you're charting your the patterns of the charts. What did they tell you? The technical indicators helping you evaluate what the charts are telling you so you can make better decisions. Those are all the sort of technical things. And we'll dive into both of those right now. So let me pull up Yahoo. And then at the end, we'll maybe take a look at putting some of it together so you can see it a little clearer. By the way, can you hear this bubbling sound or anything?
No.
Okay,
Mm-mm.
so I'm soaking my feet. My foot hurts. So just make sure you can't hear that.
You
So,
have to get that stuff I told you about.
what was it again?
On Amazon. It's like a Epsom salt foot thing. You buy it and you put your foot in there,
Uh-huh.
and immediately it stops your feet from aching. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
all right.
instant relief on Amazon.
We're going to talk about that one here afterwards.
All right,
Can you see Yahoo Finance?
I can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I go to a stock, first of all, Yahoo Finance is one of many sites that you can go to get fundamental analysis.
Okay.
You go to Yahoo, you can go to barchart.com, you can go to Finviz, Finviz, you can go to Market Watch. You can go to your brokerage account, and they've got lots of information there. You can find, some analysis on CNBC News. You can find it in the newspapers such as the Wall Street Journal, Investors Business Daily, the Financial Times. You can find stuff on Fox Business. You can find basic stock information in a lot of places. So Yahoo is no different. You can just go to, say, if you wanted to overall look about the markets in general, you can find out some things that are going on. And if you're looking for, stocks that are most active on the day, you can find those sorts of lists. It kind of lends itself to fundamentals, newsworthy sort of information. Winners, losers, top electronically traded funds, tickers that are trending, maybe pre-market or after hours. In this case, we are after the 4 o'clock time frame. I don't know if they're updating what's going on after hours. Typically with Yahoo, there is a 20-minute delay. So keep that in mind as it relates to, real-time trading. You'll want to default to your brokerage account, for real-time stuff. So when I look at a stock, we'll look at Etsy. Everybody knows Etsy. What I will typically look at from a fundamental standpoint are a few different things. One, I want to get an idea of what the volume looks like. I want to make sure whatever stock I am in, that they have enough volume. And the volume for me needs to ideally be at least 750,000 shares or more. If it's a bigger name, they may not have as much volume because the stock price is higher, possibly. But I at least want to see some volume, because if you buy shares of a company, you'll want to be able to get out of it. And if there isn't any volume really, then it's going to make it more difficult for you to get out of it. So you want the stock to be liquid. You want to have volume. So in this case, I can see that Etsy, they're typically in the 1, 2s, or 3s as far as millions of shares being traded. But today they had 5 million shares traded. So I don't know what was going on today, but they had a volume increase. So we'll actually take a look at Etsy. See 7 million back here, 5 million back here. So they got 10 million, 6 million. So maybe it's really not anything new, but for a little while they weren't trading in the 5 million range. So we'll still take a peek at that and say Tesla later.
Okay.
So volume. What this also tells you as it relates to volume, it'll also show you price. You can see the date. You can see where the stock opened. You can see the high for the day, the low, and the close for the day. So looking at this, I can see that, it opened at 663. That was the low. The high was pushing 72. It closed at almost 70. So that tells me at least it was somewhere probably in the middle of the trading for the day. And then what I like to look at, sometimes I might want to take a peek at their profile. If I don't know what the company does, I can see how many employees they have. I can see what industry they're in. I can check out their website to see if their website is decent. I can see how much the upper management make, see where they're located, and get a description on the company. So a lot of basic sort of fundamental stuff I can see. If there's any recent events, which apparently they had one today, which may account for the volume. There was a filing here for some corporate changes, and we can take a peek just to see what they were. Let's see here. Okay, so they issued a press release announcing their financial results for the quarter ending March 31st. So typically when a quarter ends, it's usually a month, sometimes a month and a half later when the actual earnings come out, because they got to compile what happened during the quarter. So from January, February, March, their quarter ended March 31st. Their earnings came out about a month, get April, really a month later, because the day is the 1st. So they had some volume to kind of go along with that earnings report. I don't know whether it was good or bad, but there was an event. So my suspicions were correct that they hadn't had 5 million in volume in a minute. So something may have happened. So let's see here. So another thing I like to look at is, I don't always look at their financials, but if you wanted to take a deep dive and you were a numbers person, you were really good at evaluating numbers, you may take a look at the breakdown of their income statement. And you could see this is for the year ending. I think we're looking at a yearly total. This is probably 1.7 billion for the 12 months that ended 2020. And then the next year they had I know it looks like millions, but this is going to be, you'll see all numbers in thousands. So you're going to add more zeros on the back of that. So Etsy, with their total revenue numbers, they have increased each year. And then what is the cost of that revenue? How much money do they have to spend to get this revenue? And so you have all of these numbers, you have all these breakdowns, but I don't take too deep of a dive into the income statement. But I will look to kind of take a peek to see if they are growing. Don't do it all the time, but sometimes I do. The main area I like to look at is statistics. And this just simply gives me a snapshot of what's happened. Market cap is it's simply a measurement of how many shares you have outstanding that are out there trading versus times the stock price. Shares outstanding times the stock price gives you the market cap. If your market cap typically is in the billions, you're probably a larger company. So I'll just kind of look and see, are they a pretty big company, or are they maybe a smaller company? And then really I scroll down. I want to take a look, are they profitable? Yeah, they got, profit margin of 11%. The return on their assets, almost 9%. They have, remember I said it was $1 billion revenue number and not millions. You had to add zeros. So 2.7 billion in the TTM over here is the trailing 12 months, and you can see TTM. So what we were looking at, of course, was yearly numbers. So the trailing 12 months, 2.75 billion. Revenue per share, they'll say how much revenue are you producing for every share that you have out there, is 22.43. Which probably is not that bad considering the stock price is at, I think, about $71. And then I'm just kind of looking through, because I'm not a huge numbers guy yet, but I want to see the basic stuff like, do you have a bunch of cash on hand? They got over $1 billion in cash, but they have twice the amount in debt. And then I might think of Etsy. I'm like, well, where does all their debt come from? Is the cost of running their site and employees and advertising and all the rest of it? I would imagine so, but makes you wonder about what it costs to run Etsy. Let's see here. From a trading standpoint, and believe me, all of this stuff will make sense to you the more we'll go over it and how I use it. From a trading standpoint, I like to look at what the float is and the shares outstanding. So shares outstanding are pretty much the same as the float in this case. It says that the float is 117 million. Typically, you have, excuse me, the float is what is being actively traded out there, what's available to be traded. And of that float, they're telling you that most of these shares of Etsy are owned by institutions. You're like, well, how can the number be greater than 100%. Excuse me. There are probably some other classes of shares that they own. Don't ask me how they calculate it all. But suffice to say that the big boys and girls, they own most of Etsy. So, the retail investor like you and I, they own probably next to none. There's a lot of that out there, but most of the bigger players own the majority of the shares. So this number, I'm sure, gets updated, from time to time. So kind of looking for that, when I'm dealing with a float that I'm looking at, I like to see that the percentage of the shares traded, or the amount of shares that are actually traded, their volume for the day, is a decent percentage as it relates to the float. So in the case of Etsy's 5 million plus shares that were traded today, that is probably 5% of the float. So I like to see a bigger number. And the reason why, Cherie, and you guys listening later, if there are 117 apples, if we're talking the float, we have 117 apples, and only 5 of them traded today, then, they probably could hold the share price down, or maybe not a lot's happening with the share price. But if the volume is sky high and there are 50 million shares that were traded, almost half of the apples that are out there are being traded, then, you tend to have a lot more volatility, opportunity to make some money. And if, these shares are maybe closely held, say insiders owned, a bunch of the apples, and the institutions owned a bunch of the apples. If you get a lot of volume and no one really selling, it could really bid the price up, because it makes the scarcity of the apples. Folks really want the apples, and they're starting to bid the price up because people don't want to let go of them cheaply. So I like to see a little bit more volume as it relates to the float. So these are, and then the other thing I look at is shares short percentage of the float. As of, you can see, as of April 15th, 15% of the float of this 117, they're being shorted. And we'll go over what is being shorted at another time. Suffice simply to say is that people are investing with the belief that it's going to go down. So they're shorting the share. They're shorting the shares. Don't worry about that right now. So these are some of the things that I look at. And so some of the other places where I find information, we'll take a look at bar chart in a second, but let me see if you have any questions that jump out at you right now. Cherie, any questions that jump out at you right now?
No, not at the minute. I was just looking at the what you were just speaking about the shares outstanding and the float. So do you when you base it upon that, and you see that most companies are the ones that hold share within the company?
Yeah, like
Is
mutual
that
funds.
is that typically what you would want to invest in, is where?
Yeah, that's usually a good sign. You want to see institutional ownership. Now, do we want to see the institutions just about own all of the shares? Maybe. If the reports are really good and they're really growing, and if a lot of mutual fund companies that own the majority of the shares say, we think it's going to be worth a lot more money, we're not going to sell it. And then you only have some people that are selling, depending on when this mutual fund bought it, he or she and their company bought it at this price, and this mutual fund bought it at this price, and they eventually soak up all of the shares. But at some point, even if they own all of the majority of the shares, they may say, you know what, these guys down here that bought it at 30 and it's at 70 now are like, they had a good report, I'm going to take some money off the table. Whereas this mutual fund company bought it at 45 and it's at 70. They may be like, we think it's going to 100. So you have different thought processes. Different analysts will come in and evaluate you know, inside their company, what they believe Etsy is worth. So, you
Okay.
know, when you have all these folks that own the majority of the shares, sometimes they're almost trading, almost, it seems like, with each other. They're selling and these guys might be buying more. And so it's just a little bit of a different league, if you will. But it doesn't mean the individual retail investor like you and I can't make money on it. And we'll take a look at Etsy um, when we're finished. So
Okay.
yeah, it's there's no hard and fast rule with some of this stuff, but the things that are tried and true we'll go over. But some of the stuff is concepts and philosophies that you got to take in, and analyzing information and thinking about, you know, what Etsy might look like the next quarter, because they usually try to foreshadow the future quarter, so that you can have an idea of where they're heading towards, and then take that knowledge and evaluate the technicals as well as all the fundamentals and arrive at a decision. The market is always forward looking. They're always evaluating everything, and it's a what have you done for me lately sort of place. So
Mhm.
I promise you that your knowledge of it all will dramatically increase over the next 6 months. Because we'll be doing this
Okay.
every week, and you'll be like, I know exactly what he's talking about. You know, and the
Okay.
language will be so different from maybe something that you're not fully used to. But if you're used to some of it, at least it'll make the transition easier. So that's Yahoo. Now we're going to transition to bar chart. And in bar chart, we have lots of stocks and information. You know, you got lots of news here, all kinds of news on different industries that will help you learn some things. Then you have a section called investing. Um, I don't know if we went over it the last time, but there has lots of different themes. You know, if you're looking for marijuana stocks, that's probably in here too somewhere. Uh, let's see here. I thought marijuana stocks were in here. Blockchain bullish, Candace. Because, you know, marijuana was in the news. Oh, there we go. Cannabis stocks. Marijuana was in the news the other day. So if I go to cannabis stocks, you know, I can find out, you know, what the news, some of the news was on them relaxing their restrictions on the category that they put marijuana in. And
Mhm.
those
I did see
stocks,
that.
yeah, those stocks ran a lot yesterday. And you could see the 5-day percentage change. You know, the
Mm.
stock's up 41%, 27%, 18, da da da, you know, the whole way down the line. Big pullback on some of them today, because this stock here was up about 30% yesterday, and it pulled back about 18% today. So lots of sort of themes and information. Under investing, you can find candlestick patterns that will help you learn more about candlesticks charting, and we'll take a look at that as well. And then here are some of the terms, and then they'll give you examples. So if I'm looking for stocks that are that have the bullish engulfing pattern, there are 245 of them that they're listing, and they're telling you what a bullish engulfing is. A signal that's the signal is a strong reversal signal when it appears at the bottom of a downtrend. So if I click on some of the examples, find I'll just pick one that has some volume, BCAB. They got a strong buy technical opinion on it. So you can also get technical opinion. Say you're like, oh, I don't really know what to make of this stock. Let me check with bar chart and see what they're saying. And then if I go to full chart and I go away from the bars like this, and I go to candlesticks right here, it's going to show me the picture differently. Before
Oh,
I do
like
that,
the green and red picture that
yes.
you showed me last week? Okay.
Yes, thank you. I wasn't sure if how much we went over that. So you can see this here.
Okay.
Um, here we did have a downtrend, but this right here was not a bullish engulfing because it did not engulf this, but it did let you know that we hit this bottom around 2 and we bounced off hard off of it, which is also bullish. The bullish engulfing is this one because it obviously engulfs all of this one. So we were in a downtrend on the bottom, heading down, and then this particular action is very bullish, and it tells you, hey, that the trend is changing. And so it engulfed all of this one and shot up all the way to 350 today. So I don't know what the news was on it, but it would have been nice. This would have been a buy signal right here at 2. And then literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days later, you're up almost about 80% on your money in 5 days. So we'll get into that. You can also see here that we put in a bit of a bottom. You see this area here. First of all, you see this candle here, these candles, and then these candles. This acted as resistance. You see this line that I will make go across. It had a hard time getting through there. You see it stopped in this area, and it stopped in this area. And then when we got back to this area right here, we finally busted through that range. And then if we use this line to go the whole way across, what was resistance here now becomes support. So you see we got support in that general area. If you look to the left here, look where the line goes here. So that general range. So support came in right here. And then when we came down near it again, it didn't quite make it down the whole way, which is good. And it ran up. But you also found that we start to have support in here, where we hit it a number of times in here, and then we hit it a number of times in this range. So when we did come down close to this new level of support here, it went through it, but it didn't take too long to get right back above it. So let me turn this off. I feel like I'm yelling over the water. So candlestick charting. So, those are bar chart is a great place to find lots of information that's presented a bit differently. All in one place. I can see the chart. I can see some of what happened today. I can see the fundamentals right here in front of me. Market cap, shares outstanding. Doesn't show me the float, which I like to really see. Options trading, any analyst recommendations. I got 5 strong buys on it, so they're all like, yeah, we like it. What else? News, as far as them being in the news. And down further, you will see any related stocks to this particular company. So clearly, without knowing, because I see the related stocks, I know this is a biotech company. And I also see that it says BioAtla. But I know definitely it's a biotech company because I see Amgen and Vertex and so and Bristol Myers Squibb and GSK. So I know it's a biotech company. I see that over the last 3 months, it's up 80%. That 80% really happened in the last 6 days. Where remember it dropped down, and then I said it was up about 80%, so that's pretty good with the percentage up. Key turning points, I can see where resistance is according to this particular breakdown of it, and I can see where support is. So the last price was 337. They're saying the next level of resistance is at 385. So bar chart gives you a lot. It will help you a lot. So 385 is right about in here, roughly, right in this general area. And that's where they believe, it will probably find some resistance. So bar chart is very helpful in your trading and in learning. Questions? Also, if we come over here to stocks, there's tons and tons, and we may have gone over this last week, tons and tons of information in here that will help from pre-market and post-market trading to stocks that are super active, stocks that have huge advances in their volume, which usually means something is going on. So like this particular one, SYT, the volume percentage change is up almost 2,000%. So there's a whole lot of volume that came in today versus
Oh,
where,
and that's just in today, that almost 2000%.
yes.
Oh
So what it
wow.
normally trades is obviously a whole lot lower. Like this one, CTMX, stocks up 214%. These are typically stocks, and I'll kind of look at lists and I'll add them to a list to evaluate before the market closes if I want to take a look at what in the world has gone on. If the volume can be up significantly, but it doesn't mean the stock is up, because maybe there's a lot of selling like this one, Leggett and Platt, down 27% almost, volume's up 6 times the normal amount of shares that it normally trades. And you got to look at some of the numbers and use common sense. Like if this is up 500, almost 600 times what it normally trades, well, if it
Mm-hmm.
only traded 17,000 shares, oh, I can simply do 17 divided by 6, and now I'll tell you that the stock really doesn't trade a whole lot because it's
Mm-hmm.
600 times what it normally trades. That is represented by the 17,000. So this stock trades like 3,000 shares a day. So that would be a stock I would want to be in. CVS, the drugstore, down a bunch today, down 17%, 5 times its normal volume today. Kind of looking for some names maybe that I can get into, possibly to do some things. So I'll write some of these names down while I'm
The
here.
the biotech company that you said went up 80% over the past 6 days.
Mhm.
Is that ultimately like a good thing? Like to see it go up 80% like that, or no? Be
Well, it can
careful.
be, especially if it keeps going, but typically what goes up has to correct because people will take profits. And if it's all happened in, pretty much one day, then we'll take a look at the stock, and we can take a look at that one as well to see maybe where there would be an entry for that particular name, on a pullback. So if
Okay.
you ever see me send you a message that says, especially when you're ready to trade, I'm like, hey, okay, I like this particular name. And if it PBs for pullback, I'm going to be buying it, if it was at whatever, $10, I might like it at 10, but I'm going to be buying the pullback. So if it drops back to 8.5, I might buy it. 7.5, I might buy it again. I'll try to iron out the details for you as far as how I plan on approaching it. What's this one right here? Just try to write down some names. I don't know how
What
much.
about that? What is that? Palisade Bio. Ooh,
Uh,
17. Right
yeah,
there.
yeah. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. Palisade Bio up almost 3 times, up 17%. Take a look at. I'll show you how I go through some of these names. Maybe I'll buy something before we get off the call. Let's see here, 30 TCN. That's residential property. And I'll kind of usually just do the first page, take a look at what really is kind of moving from a volume advance standpoint. Volume advance
Mhm.
typically means there's probably news because there's a whole lot of volume that came in that wasn't normal. Pinterest is up 21% today, almost 4 times the normal volume. They probably had earnings out. Their earnings probably were good if they're up that much. Let's see here. Starbucks down a bunch. Their earnings, they probably had earnings 5 times the normal volume. Maybe people are buying less coffee. They're like, I'm tired of spending, $8, $9 at Starbucks every time I go.
Mhm.
Let's see here. All right, so just a lot of information here. At some point, take a look at bar chart. I want you to kind of touch everything. Percentage change. All right, they're telling me percentage change up, advances, versus percentage change down. And I can see that information either for just today or over 5 days or over a month. Show me the biggest percentage losers over the last 30 days. And that's this stock, EFTR, down 86%. It's a lot. It's a big drop. But some of these names may be overdone as far as the selling, and they may be eventually ready to kind of pop up a little bit from all of the selling. So sometimes I'll write some of these names down. If it's a therapeutics company, I usually don't do it because they probably missed on a trial or something, and that's why they got hammered. So, but there might be a nugget in there somewhere. This is down 75%. We'll say percentage losers. IZM, maybe take a peek at GCTS, a semiconductor company. Won't take a look at much here. This stock is cut in half. Therapeutics. So anyway, a lot of information here. You'll get used to some of all of it. So a few other places you could go, and we won't dive into them, were the places that I talked about, such as FinViz and MarketWatch and a bunch of other places. I primarily just use my brokerage account, bar chart, and Yahoo. So those are the ones that I showed you. But I will tell you, FinViz has a really cool way of showing you things that is different from the others. Because FinViz will show you, if I'm looking for, let's see here, looking for, show me, yeah, show me, it shows me stocks. It shows it to me in a little bit of a different way with a different sort of look, or I feel like I can see it pretty clearly here. And then they do well with showing you a lot of the charts, you know, where they'll show you multiple charts on a screen, like usually like 14 at a time. Let me see here, screener. Wasn't going to get into it. Let's see here. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Looking for. No. No. Trying this. Oh, I know what I'm trying to do. It took me a minute to think I was trying this again. Okay, so if I go to say top gainers, I think it shows me all the charts. Yeah. So top gainers, if I click on that, it'll show me these little snapshots where I can just kind of go through it. I can see the news, I can see the chart, I can see some of the fundamentals. It's just presented differently. And it's nice because they already have it just laid out for you really easy. Here's that BCAB. And they give you some of the technical lines that they draw for you so you can quickly kind of see it without you having to draw any of the lines. And they put, you know, a lot of some of the technicals up here, like, you know, a simple moving average, simple moving average for 50 days and 200 days. And this purple one I can't see because I'm blind, whatever that one is. And so it compiles it. It does some of the work for you. And so I like taking a peek at FinViz. So sometimes I'll run into something that clearly shows it to me really easily. And so I can kind of move from there. So anyway, FinViz. So, all right. So questions about that bar chart. It's going to be something you're going to need to dive into a little bit, but don't worry, we're going to touch it all and be getting into it.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So candlestick patterns. Did we go over candlesticks last week, the Japanese thing I was talking about? And
we went over it a little.
Mhm.
That's how I knew that those were the candlesticks, the green and the red.
right,
And you were telling me how like the tip of the green, meaning that it's kind of like the fire of the fire, the stick part,
right.
and how it determines like the shares that are being that are like sold at the moment, and the volume moving up, the volume dropping down.
All that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so technical indicators are these things, like the simplified moving average over 50 days. The line will tell you where the average price is and as it ebbs and flows over the last 50 days. And typically, when your stock price is starting to go above the line, so say this is my 50-day moving average right here of what the price is doing. When it goes above the 50-day moving average, that tends to be bullish. And then you like to see your price, your action, your trading stay above that particular line. And so you have all of these indicators, and I think we talked a little bit about them, from stochastics to moving average convergence and divergence to, momentum indicators to relative strength. There's a whole lot of different indicators, and we'll learn them as we go along. So now I guess let's take a look at a couple of names, and we'll just kind of piece some of it together, if you will. So
Okay.
let's see here. And again, remember, it's going to be a journey. You won't piece it all together in one day. So we'll take a look at BCAB, because that was one of the ones we were just looking at. BCAB. And what I like to do, I like to, again, have the ability to look at the stock in all time frames, or in various time frames, so I can see it better. Oh, that's not it. Get that back there. We got to go down here. Let's see here. Again, when you look at the stock in bigger time frames, it gives you a greater perspective on what is going on with the trading in a particular security. So again, I like to go monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly. If I'm in the moment and we're trading and it's during a trading day and I find that, I like it, but I only like it for today, I may take a look at the bigger picture, but then I may start to drill down. It might be hourly, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes on my 4 screen. So this is what we call a 4 screen. We're looking at a 4 screen. So, and I think we went over some of this. So if we are looking at BCAB, I think we said that was a tech company, biotech company.
Biotech company.
Yeah, we can see that a bit of this trend line going on. Let's see here. Slide this computer back. It's acting funny. We can see just patterns. I see this, I see that mirrors this one. I see this where it hit its head, hit its head, hit its head. So I'm thinking, here's my area of support. We broke through what was resistance here, these 3 months, ran through it. We triple topped in here, right? 1, 2, and 3. So we had a bit of a triple top in here, and then they took it down, and what was resistance now becomes typically support, went through support, and then once you went through support, this 9 switches back, it becomes resistance because you went through it. So now it's hitting its head here. It's back to being resistance again, resistance. And then for another 3 months, it hit its head. It really couldn't get through this area. It closed below this line. Even though we traded above it, make this bigger, make sure you can see it. Even though we traded
below it, drop.
we're staying below it. So let's go back to monthly so we can see it. So over the last, bless you, over the last 3 months, we've pretty much been in a little trading range from the bottom in here to the top in here. So just in here. And so if I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, BCAB is in a trading range. It's in a channel. So I'm really not moved by it, and I'm more interested if it breaks through this resistance area. So everything that I touch, I'll mark it. This is about 350. Wake me up if we hit about 360 something. So create an alert, and then that's there because that's maybe telling me we're pushing through resistance. Then on the weekly, what is the weekly tell? It's a different stock. What is the weekly telling me here? BCAB. Weekly is very similar. I see where, we've been in this uptrend in here. I see we dipped through it and then we powered up, which we talked about earlier. And that 80% sort of move from, this $2 range up to almost $4. So I kind of see where we're at there, but I know the bigger picture still tells me that we've topped in here before, and we may not make it through this 345 range in here, 350. So I keep that in my mind, and I might even make a note. I might put down M for monthly, triple top, 3 times top. And I might put $3.50. And I might put an A that there's an alert there, and then I'll go weekly. I might put, we're up a bunch for the week. I don't know what the news was. There was no news because today is the 1st, and the last piece of news I see was on the 24th. So I might put we're up a bunch, no news, question marks. I don't know why we're up that much. When a stock runs up a lot, I'm betting the float is low. When you get really strong moves, you either had amazing news or your float is not that big. So I'll put F, what is the float? And then I'll kind of look at the daily to see what the action looked like. And I'll make this bigger so I can see it, so you can see it. I see that we were in this area on the daily where this was the resistance area down here at about 50 cents. We were just kind of just doing this number, and then we gapped up. See, I'll make this bigger and bigger. We gapped up here. From here, we closed at 40 cents. The next day this opened, it opened at $1.27. So we almost 3 times the money on 418. And I look over here at news, I don't see any news. And I don't see any sort of split anywhere either to make the price go up 3 times. And we'll get into splits and stuff later. So we gapped up, pulled back, and then we ran for the next so many days. We consolidated in here about 5 days, and then we gapped again. But this time when we ran up and hit this 429, there was a lot of selling that came in, which took us down to here. The next day we gapped up again, and we kind of settled in somewhere in the middle from where we were trading about mid-range. And you can see, making this bigger, the open was 327, which was up in this corner. The high was here at 347. The low was 281, and the close was 312. So if you look at the distance here and this close right here in this corner, you see we're about in the middle of that line, of this line. See that? So I can just eyeball it and see it close somewhere in the middle. And I can see here, this is telling me that, hey, we've had quite a run from 40 cents. The run was 10 times your money because this was 40 cents. So 4 days, 6, 7, 8, 9 days, you got 10 times your money. And so there was a lot of selling here that took it back down to where it probably would find some support in here based on this trading in here. So this was an opportunity to sell. We gapped up, we ran up, people took profits and took it back down to where support would be in this general area. And so right now, it probably doesn't really know what it wants to do. the people who didn't sell yesterday. And then you get this little bit of a bump today. They're like, okay, what are we doing? Are we going to sell it? Or are we going to go higher? The people are probably a little bit in limbo now, but this was definitely the selling day, this gap, and then that run, because people got 10 times their money for the folks who held it here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see, you can see all that, right? As we look at it.
Yes.
Yes. So when you're looking at a candlestick pattern,
I
you're
call the
looking
other
at,
little stick a yard sign. I don't know why it looks
no,
like a
this one
yard.
right here.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
little,
little
yeah, it
yard
looks like a
sign,
yard
right? It
sign.
does. You just got to think, what is that? What is that telling me? Looking at this, and you look at open, high, low, close, you're like, oh, and then yeah, back here. Oh, I see why there would have been this sell-off here, which would have really brought it down because we opened at 288, high was 429, the low was 271, and we closed near the low of the day at 283, below even where we opened at 288. And that all makes sense, common sense that you would have taken the money too. Hell, I'd have taken the money right in here. Right. When I got 5 times the money, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
And then figured out where I was going to buy it again. So sometimes what you do, you get a hold of a stock and you feel like it's in play, like folks are trading it. It's the new it girl, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how am I going to play this? And then when you get the money, I'm always a big fan of telling people, take the money. Like take the money, take the money, take the money. Because even if you took the money here, doesn't mean, and you made 4 times your money plus, but it kept going higher. I don't care. I made 4 times my money because maybe
Right.
it's here and then it rolled over and went down and you didn't take the money. But this is why we look at the smaller time frames to see if maybe the stock is going to keep going. But then doesn't mean you can't come back and rebuy it in here. And you're like, okay, we're at a channel. We've got this, sort of resistance level here. I'll buy it if we break through this 251. So the stock opens here at 288. Maybe you buy it and it runs to 429 or even 4 or something, 3 something, and you make money all over again. And you recognize when you need to get out. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a saying, bulls make money, meaning people who believe the stock's going up and that's how they're trading because they believe the stock's going up. Bears make money, people who believe the stock's going to go down, and you see the bulls and the bears back behind me. And pigs get slaughtered. Pigs are the ones who just get so daggone greedy. They often miss out on the move because they think the stock is going to the moon, or they're not satisfied with the four times your money gain in 2-3 days, and they get greedy, and then something may turn against them. Maybe out of the blue, the company says, oh, we're going to do an offering. We're going to offer more shares, which is going to dilute your shares. And then the stock drops down and they do an offering to institutional investors at a price that is lower than where it's trading. And you didn't see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
So as you learn and as you go through it, Cherie, there's going to be times where you're just going to take the money and the stock's going to keep going and you just live with it. Doesn't mean you can't get right back in it, but it's good to secure the money. And there's going to be times where you're going to get all of the money and you're just going to do it perfectly. And you're like, wow, I got all of it, 10 times my money in 9 days. And there'll be times where you don't get any of the money, but the goal is to be good enough where you usually get some kind of money. So my goal always, I tell people, I try to be right about 7 times out of 10. And of those 7 times, if you will, it will be great if I can be really right 1 or 2 times. But the other, 6 times or so, 5 times, if I'm making 10% of my money, I'm good. And if I don't make 400 times, 400% of my money, I only make 10% of my money, I'll be okay. Because what is 10% on 40 cents?
10% on 40 cents?
Uh-huh. Don't make it harder than what it is. What is it?
No, 10% on 40 cents. What isn't that, $400?
Huh?
What isn't that, $400?
No,
10%
no.
on
No, what is making just 10% on 40 cents? What's 110% of 40 cents?
10% on 40 cents, that would be
Got you.
roughly probably about what,
Nope,
14 to almost what, like 15 cents
nope,
on, what would
nope.
it be?
Just what is it would be 4 cents. So I'm gonna have to get you really good at math. What's 10% of a dollar?
10% of a dollar is
10 cents.
10 cents.
Yep. What's 20% on a dollar?
It's 20 cents.
Yes, ma'am. 40% on a dollar.
40 cents.
40% on $4.
40% on
$4. So
$4. It's 40
what?
cents.
Nope. That's
On
10%
$4?
on
On
$4.
10%.
So
But
here's how the math
you're
works.
taking 10% from each dollar, so that would give you 40 cents, right? You said?
No, I said 40% on $4.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry. I thought you
That's
said
okay.
what is 40% of $4?
No,
Sorry.
if you make 40% on a $4 trade, what do you make? 140% of 4 is what?
If I make 140%,
Yeah, or you make 40% on $4.
$4, I would make 40 cents.
Nope, that would be 10%. So
Okay,
you would do that times 4 then to make a
that's
$1.60.
yes.
Yes. So the short math is
I don't know how I'm getting lost.
that's okay. So the short math is if I say, what's 40% of $4, you would just tell me it's $1.60 because 4 times 4 is 16. Yes.
Yes, that's
So it's
correct.
$1.60. Yep. So if I say, Cherie, what's 40% on $8?
40% on a dollar, you
On
would be
$8.
on $8. That is 8 cents. 80 cents.
Nope. Remember I told you what you do the first two numbers. So if I'm trying to figure out what's 40% of $8, it's 8 times 4. The $8, the 8 right there, and the 40%, there's 4 times
32. So 32 cents.
not
Is
32
4 times
cents.
8.
You got to add the 0. So
Oh,
320
okay.
cents.
Oh, 320. Okay, okay, okay,
Yes.
okay.
So if I said Cherie, and we can stop this video because we're done anyway as far as recording. Hold on one second.
Yeah, because I'm looking illiterate with math.
I don't want you looking crazy. That's okay for all you guys watching.